This is section 821. We're going to take a look at the reciprocal trig ratios. So by the end of this lesson, you will be able to state the 6 basic trig ratios and evaluate the sides of a right triangle using those 6 basic trig ratios. So this was our humble right triangle, and remember we said that we give these names. So if I have a given angle, this would be the opposite leg of that angle, this would be the adjacent, and this is the hypotenuse. And the Greeks gave them names. And we said we only had these first 3. The opposite to the hypotenuse, the adjacent to the hypotenuse, and then the opposite to the adjacent. And I said later on we're going to learn the other 3. Well, guess what? That's what we're doing today, is we're going to take a look at the fact that there are 3 other names. So we have our sine, cosine, and tangent. But now we also have cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Now, what are those? If we kind of take a look at this, they seem to be flipped. If we look at cosine and secant, they seem to be flipped. If we look at tangent and cotangent, they seem to be flipped. Well, that's the relationship between them. They're going to be reciprocals. Now, this is how we say them. We say cosecant is CSC. Secant is SEC, and then cotangent is just COT. It's not XX. It's not SK. It's not K. Okay, we say cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Now remember SOHCAHTOA? We will always use SOHCAHTOA when starting things out. From there, we will find the reciprocal. And so the reciprocal ratios, sine and cosecant, they're just reciprocals of each other. You just flip whatever the fraction is, or you just flip the decimal to be able to find it. And a good way to remember it is S goes to C and C goes to S. So S goes to C, so I know sine and cosecant. C goes to S, so I know cosine and secant, and it works both ways. S goes to C, C goes to S. Cotangent, tangent's easy, but the point being is that they are reciprocals of each other. And then remember, we always must include this angle. So if I wanted to find the cosecant and secant of this given angle, first start with SOHCAHTOA still. This is the easiest way to find these ratios. And so if it says cosecant, I just need to think, okay, cosecant, S goes to C, C goes to S, okay, it's sine. So I'm going to find the sine ratio. So the sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so 19 over 29. So opposite over hypotenuse. Now I can find cosecant. So the cosecant of theta just means you flip it. They are reciprocals of each other. And that's it. That's all we're adding to this. You're still doing all this SOHCAHTOA stuff. It's just now we know the reciprocal functions. If I wanted to find secant, okay, SOHCAHTOA, S goes to C. Okay, so I know it relates to cosine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent over hypotenuse. And now I need to flip it, right? It's the reciprocal to find secant. So then the secant of theta is going to be 29 over 22. And let's not forget about cotangent. Now this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle, so T, T root 3, 2T. But to find the cotangent, right, we still do SOHCAHTOA. So cotangent relates to tangent. So the tangent of 30 degrees is opposite over adjacent. So therefore, the cotangent of 30 degrees, you flip it. 8 root 3 over 8. Those 8s will cancel out, and so you're left with root 3. That's going to be our answer. So what did we learn today? We talked about the other three trig ratios. So now we know all six of them: sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, cotangent. And how do we find those reciprocal trig ratios? Well, first, you find the sine, cosine, or tangent ratio. And then, S goes to C, C goes to S. So S goes to C, C goes to S. So you know which one it associates with. And then you do the reciprocal. Which means you flip it. This does conclude our lesson. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments.